Hey, what's going on, guys? This may look a little weird because I'm actually recording this on my laptop. My Yeti mic just refuses to work on my desktop, even after reinstalling Windows, so here we are. Today we are here to talk about Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, specifically the HD version that was part of Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue for the PS4. I just acquired the Platinum to this game on the 8th, so about 2 days ago. And it took roughly 51-ish hours, if I remember correctly. So a pretty involved plat, nothing super crazy. I actually started Final Fantasy XIV next, so I will probably do several videos on that, just kind of talking about the process overall, just as I make a little bit more progress in that trophy. But anyway, talking about Kingdom Hearts. So for those of you who don't know, Dream Drop Distance actually takes place after the events of Kingdom Hearts 2. It is kind of a direct link between 2 and 3 when it comes out. It is very important. It is definitely a game that should be played to understand what's going on in the franchise. If anybody ever asks, I will usually tell them there are pretty much 5 games that have to be played to understand what's going on. 5.5, I guess, if you count like either watching the videos or playing through 0.2, which only takes about 2 hours to beat, which is also on the 2.8 disc. Sorry, I know these titles are confusing. They make sense if you play and understand the series, and I feel like I am definitely one of the few that do. But then again, I've been playing it ever since the first game came out in 2002, 2001, around then. So anyway, it directly leads into 3. It is one of the 5 games, which would be Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts or not necessarily but Chain of Memories, that takes place between 1 and 2, Kingdom Hearts 2, then Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which takes place before the events of the first game, but directly lead into kind of that universe that explain kind of what's going on overall with more of the themes that are explored with darkness and kind of showing a little bit more of the villain and kind of his ideas and what he's trying to do. And then we have Dream Drop Distance. It is very similar to Birth by Sleep if you've ever played it. You can definitely tell it's not quite as slow as Kingdom Hearts 1 is. It's definitely faster. They also don't rely on just the normal system with Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 when it comes to abilities and spells and things of that nature. Whereas Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are very reaction command type things when it comes to using special abilities like Ars Arcanum or Sonic Blade or Strike Raid, where you would just hit triangle or select it when it would give you when it would be the right moment to use that move. It's more along the lines of any of you have ever played Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, where you actually you equip a number of abilities, and then each specific ability that you use has a particular cooldown depending on the strength of the ability. You can still attack freely, just like you can in the other games. That doesn't affect this whatsoever. But for the actual ability usage, it has a cooldown of anywhere from roughly 10 to 30 seconds, depending on how strong the ability is. The system is a little different as well in Dream Drop Distance, because you actually play as Sora and Riku. You have what's called a drop gauge that's introduced really early on that is basically a timer, and when that timer runs out, you switch to the other character. So the game has 7 worlds, but you actually play through the worlds as different characters, like as the 2 characters, and they are different. The things that happen in those worlds sometimes can tie together, but for the most part are totally separate experiences in that world and can sometimes involve different characters. So it's pretty interesting how they kind of give you a smaller amount of worlds than what we're used to necessarily, but not by much, but it expands on them in pretty huge ways, and sometimes you go to completely different areas, even though you're just 2 different characters in the same world. The Platinum has mostly nothing too crazy. If you want to beat it in one playthrough, it does require actually starting on Proud Mode, one of the harder difficulties. You do unlock a higher one called Critical, but you have to beat the game first on any other difficulty to unlock that. So if you want to get it in one run, you have to start on Proud Mode. There is a trophy for basically getting all of the abilities that you can get in the game, and if you do not play on Proud or Critical, you actually miss one of those abilities, and it will prevent you from getting that trophy. The other thing, you have kind of these companions instead of having Donald and Goofy with you as per previous games or playing by yourself in Birth by Sleep. You actually have what are called Dream Eaters. It's not necessarily a Pokemon type thing. They are versions of creatures that you fight in the game, but you will basically do certain things, whether it's open chests or complete challenges, to get the recipe to create those creatures. So you don't catch them, but you create them with materials that you get off of other Dream Eaters that you defeat. It is a very interesting thing. There are a wide variety of Dream Eaters. There are, I think, roughly 40 of them, or 50 maybe. There are trophies for creating all of them, getting all the recipes. You also have to max the affinity level of one, which takes quite a bit of grinding. They also have, like, basically level up boards. It's very similar to the kind of like Final Fantasy 12, or actually it's very similar to World of Final Fantasy, if any of you have played that, where you get experience by defeating enemies with those Dream Eaters in your party, and then actually spending those experience points to unlock abilities. They unlock abilities for you specifically, whether it's Keyblade moves or actual spells that you learn, things like that. They also give you passive bonuses like attack boosts, defense boosts, all the way to like increasing the power of your fire magic or blizzard magic, or increasing your defense to fire magic or blizzard magic. All sorts of stuff. So there are trophies involved with getting all of the different commands that you can unlock in the game, which is probably one of the harder trophies, just because it requires you to get pretty much every Dream Eater of especially later game, where you have to grind to get specific materials to create those that are a lot harder to get, and then leveling them up quite a bit. There are items that you get that increase your affinity with Dream Eaters, so you can do that over and over again to get that trophy for maxing affinity, but it also allows you to get a bunch of experience points to learn those abilities that you need. One interesting thing as well with the Dream Eaters, there is an ability called Link, where it actually does different things with Sora and with Riku. Sora will team up with that Dream Eater and use like a combo attack with the two of them, or three of them. You can do one attack that involves both of them at the same time, that do just large area of effect attacks, or that basically have you bouncing from enemy to enemy, like laser attacking them, kind of charging them. What Riku does is, though, he actually absorbs the Dream Eater and gains some sort of power there. You know, he has a fire form, a darkness form, a flight form, all sorts of different forms. There are things required where you have to basically you have to do each one of those. Riku has about 15 total, when Sora has probably about 30 or 35. The biggest hurdle in this game, trophy-wise, is actually a trophy for getting 100% completion in story, combat, and items. There are individual trophies for 100% story, 100% combat, 100% items, but there is a gold overall that is all three together. Definitely the most time-consuming trophy in the game. Story requires you to beat the story. Some people have said see the secret ending, but you actually don't have to do that if you do other things. It seems when they added a couple special Dream Eaters for this version of the game, they didn't take that into account. And even though I had not seen the secret ending, which should have put me at, I think, 97 or 98%, I actually hit 100 just by getting all the Dream Eaters done, having beaten the game, but just not seeing that secret ending. But the other thing, it requires items, counts, just every consumable that you can get, the Keyblades that you unlock during the game, which you have to do several different things to get. Combat includes all of the different commands, so again, you're going to need every command to begin with, but also doing what are called the secret portals and the special portals, which are basically little like pink crystals that show up in the world. There will be one special portal each time you go into the world, and there are 6 per world per Sora and Riku, and they change each time. So they can be kind of complicated to find. There are definitely guides which I utilize to find them. Since it is the 3DS remake, I just was able to find guides from the 3DS version. They're all the same. There's no differences or changes there. So that definitely helps a lot. but just taking the time and kind of getting lucky and seeing those pop up is very, very time consuming. It can be kind of annoying to try and basically get lucky when you're only needing 1 or 2 per world. I was basically just doing the drop, which is what they call when you switch between characters, over and over again, just to get that, see what special portals were up that day, or however you want to phrase it. Which is nice because there is also a trophy for dropping 100 times, and after I beat the game I'd only dropped like 20 times. Getting every other trophy before completing the special portals, I had probably 30 or 35 drops, so I needed to do a lot of that anyway, not a big deal. But basically when you complete that 100% for story, combat, and items, you are very, very, very close to finishing. After that, that was all that I needed there at the very end, was getting that 100 drops after finishing that. But usually the only other thing that you would really have to do that you wouldn't get otherwise working towards that goal would be scoring a certain amount on the mini games, which the game only has 4, so it's not that difficult. There are 3 training toys for actually just improving your Dream Eaters, whether it's their experience towards them leveling up, their link points, which is the experience they use to learn new abilities for you or some of those passive upgrades, or you have their affinity, so just how much they like you, because there is a trophy for that, for increasing it to max level. So overall, like, there's a lot of this Dream Eater stuff is pretty annoying. It can be pretty tedious because you have to just use the same toy over and over and over again. I would basically just turn on a YouTube video or a Twitch stream and just watch it while I was just mindlessly going away at the training toys. Other than that, switching between the 2 characters to find those few last missing special portals is kind of annoying. Otherwise, though, the game isn't really that bad. Especially difficulty-wise on Proud Mode, Dream Drop Distance is not hard. Even the secret boss in the game to get one of the Keyblades that you need is not that difficult. There is a spell in the game, a balloon, if any of you are familiar with it, is horrendously broken in this game. It is so powerful. When it gets to the point where you get Balloonra or Balloonga, it is absurd how strong it is. You use one of those Balloongas, and it will take out an entire health bar of a boss. And a boss will, once you get towards the end, the secret boss I think has 10 health bars, but most bosses will have anywhere from 3 to 7, so it just takes a few rotations of your spells in order to kill them. So it's basically just, how do I stay alive for 2 minutes to just cycle through my spells as fast as I can, and the fight's over with. Another thing is, the blocking mechanic in this game is fairly strong. There are times where you can get caught up in enemy attacks that kind of wombo combo chain you. You'll get hit by multiple attacks in a row, or they'll knock you up in the air, and you won't be able to do anything even if you have aerial recovery, like from the previous games. It doesn't really do much to help, so that can be kind of frustrating at times, but overall, with the abilities that you have, it's quite broken. Another big thing that this game introduced that's probably the most, like, single most hands down game-breaking thing besides Balloonga is flow motion. It's basically a series of special attacks. Each world has a different variation of that attack, but overall, when you dash into a wall or you jump on a rail, you will actually get covered in like this pink aura, and it allows you to jump higher in the air. You can hit square to do a dash. You can hit X to do like a special charged attack that is like an AoE kind of special ability. And there's no limit on it. There's no gauge that shows how much you can do. You can literally just jump, dash into a wall, jump with flow motion, and then slam with flow motion. You can grind on rails, and if you target an enemy and attack them when you're grinding on the rail, you actually teleport, disappear entirely, and you'll get a couple of invincibility frames doing that, and then you'll hit the enemy from behind, which can do an absurd amount of damage, especially later on when you get the ability to give yourself bonuses in between these drops between characters. It gets pretty absurd. It also, the ability to actually dash into a wall and then jump, and dash into a wall, and then jump, and dash into a wall, completely negates the difficulty in a lot of fights for the game, especially when it comes to the secret boss. It makes it ridiculously easy. You use Balloonga a few times, or Balloonra, let him get hit by the balloons, and then if you get hit, heal yourself, and then just jump up, flow motion, jump up, dash, jump up, dash, jump up, dash, and you're able to get so high above the enemy, he can't do anything. So as long as you just keep bouncing into a wall and then jumping, you're so high up above him. That's it. Like, just come back down whenever all your spells have come back, and then use them again, and then rinse, repeat. That can be pretty much said for any boss fight. There are a few exceptions later on, towards the very end of the story, that can be kind of absurd. But overall, like, the game is not bad. The other complaint would be just some of those final bosses. It kind of puts you in a few in a row. You might have 2 or 3 in a row that can be quite difficult, especially because if you quit out and go back just to grind a little bit more, you have to start from the beginning of those multiple boss fights. But Kingdom Hearts 1 was like that with Ansem, so it's not a really big deal. If you've played the franchise before, you're kind of used to that situation happening. It very much reminded me of Kingdom Hearts 1 where you fight Ansem the first time, then the second time with his bodyguard, which that fight was always the big hurdle for me. Once I got past that fight and I went into like the darkness world, it was easy from that point. I never had any issues. It was just that first and mainly second fight. This is very much the same way. Overall, I'm going to rate the difficulty of that trophy pretty low. I would say it's probably a 3 or 4. You do have to beat it on Proud Mode, but again, the abilities they give you makes it completely busted. It's not that difficult. It's just a little time consuming, but even then not too bad. I still beat it in about 50, 60 hours less than it took me to Platinum 13, even though I'd played both games before, knowing decently well what I was going back into. Overall, the game itself, I still rate pretty highly for the Kingdom Hearts franchise. I feel like 1, 2, Birth by Sleep, and Dream Drop Distance all feel really good. 1 is a little clunky, a little agey. But they're still fun games. The combat system has been really refined, and kind of leading into 0.2, it's pretty amazing. I'm very excited to see what 3 does after having played 0.2 on this disc as well, and I really wish that game had been longer. I ended up playing it about 10 hours, and I'll have another video just going into detail about that. But that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about the game that I didn't answer, if you thought I rambled a little bit too much and I just need to be better prepared with notes, I agree with you. I really need to do that. I just want to get my feet wet, get used to making this a normal routine, talking to the camera with myself. Hopefully being able to bring someone else in here too. I am looking to get someone with the 0.2 video, my good friend Alden, just because him and I both played it. We beat it on beginner, normal, proud, and critical, and then just did everything 100%ed that game trophy-wise, and had a blast doing it. So I definitely want to get him on and just kind of get his ideas and kind of have someone to bounce things on and off of. So yeah, if you have any other comments, concerns, please let me know. Feel free to subscribe. I do appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram at Blakers37, on Twitter at BlakeWilhelm37. Just let me know what I can do to help you, and I'll be happy to do it. Thank you very much for your time. Take it easy, guys.